Pablo Escobar is a name that needs no introduction. The Colombian drug lord made a name for himself. He would smuggle cocaine and other drugs into America. He was so good at what he did that he managed to start a cocaine pandemic in America, and the government had to take action against him by sending narcotic agents to Colombia. There are stories about Escobar that are so wild that they go beyond the realm of fantasy. When the government had no option but to incarcerate him, he made himself a jail. The jail was probably one of the most excessive displays of wealth the world has ever seen. Don't forget to watch today's video to the very end for the top 10 Pablo Escobar facts that will surprise you. But before we begin, we request you subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss another upload of ours. Having said that, let's jump right in. Number 10. A crook since childhood. The straight life was never meant for Pablo. He was the son of an honest farmer, and his mother was a school teacher. His parents should have been symbols of honesty for him, but Pablo disliked the fact that they toiled so hard for so little. The first crime he was arrested for was stealing a car. He also sold fake diplomas, stereo equipment, and whatever else he could to make ends meet. It was not until adulthood that he started his career as a drug smuggler. The point is that his rise to power was not as smooth and linear as everyone thinks. He was a small-time criminal who had his work cut out for him. So, before becoming the drug lord we know him as, Pablo stole cars, sold contraband cigarettes and fake lottery tickets, and even kidnapped a Medellin executive, earning $100,000 as ransom. In 1970s, Pablo entered the drug trade. In 1975, he got the local drug lord Fabio Restrepo murdered, took over his organization, and expanded operations. Soon Escobar controlled all crime in Medellin and was responsible for 80% of the cocaine that was transported to the United States. At first, Pablo smuggled cocaine in old plane tires, and a pilot could earn as much as 500,000 pounds, depending on the amount smuggled. It is estimated that 1.70 to 80 tons of cocaine was being smuggled every month from Colombia to the United States by Pablo. Apart from planes, 2 small remote-controlled submarines were used to smuggle the massive load. Number 9. The notorious rubber bands. At the height of its power, the Medellin drug cartel was smuggling 15 tons of cocaine per day, worth more than $500,000 just to the United States. Escobar became one of the wealthiest men in the world. Having more illegal money than he could deposit in banks, he stored bricks of cash in the warehouse, where 10% of it was lost to natural causes. His accountant said that they spent $2,500 a month just to purchase rubber bands to wrap around the cash. By the mid-1980s, Pablo Escobar was one of the most powerful men in the world. In 1989, Forbes magazine listed him as the 7th richest man in the world with a personal wealth of close to $25 billion. He could kill anyone, anywhere, anytime. This was a time when Pablo made $420 million a week. That's more money than most of us will make in our lifetime, which explains why he had to spend $2,500 every month on rubber bands alone to handle all that money. That's probably a lot more than any of us would spend on rubber bands in our lifetime. The problem was that Pablo could not simply walk into a bank and deposit $420 million there every week. Thus, the money he made had to be tallied up and stored in deposits and safe houses throughout Colombia. Legends state that there are still stashes of cash buried all over Colombia, but nobody can find them, since the man who hid them is now dead. This rubber band fact, often called a myth, has been confirmed by Pablo's brother, Roberto. Number 8. Pablo loved football. Pablo loved to play football, and there are even a couple of rare clips which show him playing the sport. He became the primary sponsor of a club from his home city, Atlético Nacional. He provided funding to the team to get the best players in Colombia, and the team eventually won the South American Champions League. Escobar is believed to have pumped huge sums of money into this local club, Atlético Nacional, during the late 80s to early 90s. Players like Faustino Asprilla, Juan Pablo Angel, Ivan Cordoba, Andres Escobar, and Rena Higuita, who pulled off that scorpion kick against England, played with the club at the time. Pablo's cartel wasn't the only one involved in football. Most major cartels sponsored their own teams, and narcos football was at its peak during the time that Pablo was in power. He allegedly ordered the assassination of a referee who he thought had been bribed by his rival cartels. Say what you want, but we think Pablo took football a little too seriously. Number 7. His smuggling route. Pablo had to purchase an island during his prime because his smuggling route was becoming quite difficult to manage. The island had everything. It had a 1-kilometer airstrip, multiple aircraft, hotels, boats, and even a refrigerated warehouse to store cocaine. The island was one of the most insane displays of wealth the world had seen at the time. The smuggling route remained active for 4 years. It was purchased by a man named Norman Kay on the behalf of the Medellin cartel. The island was located in the Bahamas. Number 6. Super rich pilots. Pablo did not keep all the money that he made for himself. He also rewarded his subordinates very handsomely. A pilot was paid $500,000 for a single smuggling trip. That kind of money is enough to set up a person for life. The cocaine was smuggled in old plane tires, and in the early days, no one even cared to go that far to check what a plane was bringing in. When the cocaine pandemic started to bring down the heat on Pablo, he even went as far as to use submarines to smuggle cocaine into America. Pablo did not become successful because he was the first person to think of smuggling cocaine into America. He was successful because he was the best smuggler Colombia had ever seen. Number 5. The cocaine hippos. Pablo had his own zoo, which had exotic animals from all over the world. He housed elephants, giraffes, ostriches, hippos, and many other animals in his zoo. Most of them were rehabilitated after Pablo's death because the state did not have enough funds to manage the zoo. However, it was extremely hard to relocate the hippos because adult hippos are notorious for their fits of rage. There was only 1 male hippo and 2 female ones. They were left to fend for themselves in the hope that they would live out their natural lifespans and die. Owing to the lack of natural predators, the hippos reproduced at such an exponential rate that they have invaded the natural ecosystem of Colombia. They are such an ecological hazard that they have been termed the cocaine hippos. Number 4. Rats ate Escobar's money. At the peak of their powers, the Medellin cartel were reportedly raking in around $20 billion every year, with Pablo Escobar's personal wealth reaching $30 billion. The fact that selling drugs is a cash-only business, he had a lot of trouble hiding it all safely. That was highlighted by his brother Roberto Escobar, who said Pablo would write off 10% of the money because rats would eat it in storage or else it would be damaged by water or lost. Number 3. Those cocaine hippos he imported from Africa 30 years ago are still roaming free. When Pablo started making megabucks, he decided to build a zoo on his land, as you do, and he wanted to fill it with exotic animals, so he imported a few hippopotamus from Africa. When everything fell apart and his property was seized, the animals in the zoo were shared around zoos in Colombia, except for the hippos. They've been multiplying at a fast rate, and it's thought there are now over 70 roaming the marshy grounds where Escobar used to live. Number 2. A switch private property in the Colombia jungle. Escobar built a luxurious 20-square-kilometer estate for his family and friends, and he went a bit wild with the facilities on the property. The place had 2 helicopter landing pads, over 1,500 employees, 10 houses, 3 zoos, full-size football pitches, 27 artificial lakes, life-size dinosaur statues, plural, and a petrol station. Those details were revealed in his son's book Pablo Escobar, My Father. This clip explains how he afforded all of it. Number 1. Suspect for the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. Escobar was responsible for bombing Avianca Flight 203. He wanted to kill the presidential candidate for the 1990 elections, Cesar Gaviria. 110 people were killed due to this attack. Gaviria was, however, not on the plane and would go on to become the president of Colombia. Escobar was also suspected in the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. He was, however, offended by this and sent a note to the U.S. ambassador to Colombia stating that if he had done it, he would have declared why he did it and what he wanted. With that, we come to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Lastly, join in next time for more of such interesting content.